Hey everyone, Daishihan Miller, and we are here with KUDEN episode 111. For those of you watching in live, you're probably blinded now by my summer I need a damn cruise hot. Well, it's hot pink on this side. When I'm looking in the screen there, it looks like it might be orange. Doesn't matter. I got one of those colors too. So see whatever you need to see. Okay, so from last episode, I said I gave people an option as to what today's topic would be. And the votes are in. And I guess we're talking about dealing with haters. Not that you've ever had to deal with that. But I got to tell you, the more and more you slip into a role of influence or you start to produce significant results and all that, they will come out of the woodwork. And it is one of the biggest things, right? The concern for and the need to be liked and all that, right? It's a normal desire, right? It's a normal thing that happens because we're social creatures, right? But it's one of the biggest things that stops most people from being successful because they want to bend and twist and whatnot to everybody else's things, right? So anyway, bring up a couple of little notes that I had here because I don't want to miss anything. So for me, and we'll talk about some things that Hatsumi-Sensei had to deal with, or just some things that I've seen from him along the way, and things that even his teacher, right, Takamatsu-Sensei, had to deal with, right? But just from me, right, dealing with different types of what we'll call haters, right? They might not call themselves that because our egos never let us see what it is that we're really doing, right? Until we really dive in and punch it in the face and make it pay attention, right? But people that judge my skill set, knowledge, and all that by nothing more than appearances, right? My weight, my age, the shape, clothing I wear, whatever, right? People that are assumed, we'll call them assumed masters, right? With no real world experience, right? They all know all the kata. They can do things in a dojo. That kind of thing, right? The flat out ignorant, right? That they don't know anything, but they like to try to blow smoke, right? The rank seekers, poor people in time, effort, money. This is not just a money thing, right? Who want a free handout, who want, whatever. And they're going to get angry or attack if they don't get what they want. Those who need to be the guy, the girl, whatever, right? Envious, whatever, right? So they, like I said, they come out of the woodwork. And again, maybe you've experienced this, maybe you haven't. If you have, then, well, we'll take a look at these things. So what I have in store for today's episode is we're going to take a look at some methods and targets. What on you might different types of haters target, right? Why or the intent behind the tactic, right? Where that's coming from, and we're going to take a look at defense tactics and how to handle them. If you're one of my guys or girls or whatever that are involved in the Ninpo Mikyo or even the Tendai Mikyo side of things, this is probably going to be a review. I'm not going to dive into it from that perspective specifically, but you'll start to recognize the patterns as you listen in. Okay, so that and more when we get started. So the big question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world. Okay, we're back. So let's see. James, does it sound okay? James is in the background lurking again, right? I see this little grayed out screen. He gives me my thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever, panic look, whatever, right? So anyway, Or was I going to start with this? Well, anyways, uh, some folks had sent in some emails about this was going to be a really hot topic for them because they've been up against these kind of things. So that's really great. I mean, we no sooner got off the episode last time and somebody sent me an email and said my vote is haters. Haters. We got to deal with haters. Okay. So anyway, so what are some of the tactics, right? Because this kind of this can be looked at from the perspective of bullying. I know we normally think of bullying, we think of kids stuff, right? Kids doing their thing, right? We just have different words for the same thing depending on age, right? Or life experience, or I don't know where our ego's sitting, and we don't want to look at it from something because then, or from some direction, because then it sounds, I don't know, it sounds cheesy or it sounds childish or whatever. Why would I be complaining about that, right? But the reality is that it's the same thing regardless of what you call it, right? What's that? Rose by any other name, right? So let's jump in and take a look at some, like, not necessarily methods, but the targets, right? What might they target when they're coming at things? Okay. So, and I'm using our mandala framework, right? The Kongokai mandala for those of you who know what I'm talking about. And if not, don't worry about it, right? It's just these 5 realms that we make it easy for us to break things down. And I apologize for those of you watching live at the moment. Of those of you on Stitcher Radio and Spotify and all that, you can't see anything, but I just bumped the desk that my laptop is on, and I think everybody got a chance to see what maybe it would be like in an earthquake, except that I was moving too. So, anyway, all right. So, in no particular order, right? We're just going to kind of jump around, right? So, one of them, one of the targets, right, about you. And this is about you, right? And aspects of you that they could target, they could just jump in on, right? So one of them is somebody could attack your credibility, right? That you don't have any experience, you don't have any business talking about this given thing, right? Whatever it is, right? They could attack your knowledge, right? What it is that right? You put something out, or they could just negate, your knowledge, right? They could attack you. Your personality, they could attack your image, like I said earlier before we ran the title stuff there. They could just jump on what you look like and all that. I remember one time I had all these videos. This was a long time ago, and we're now not re-releasing more videos and things like that on YouTube, but it's just a new wave of things, right? Just pumping a bunch of lessons and things like that out there. But I did this technique. It's called I think it was Yokoto from the from the Koto school, right? Yokoto, right? This scoop up and knock down kind of thing. And the technique is just a matter of them coming in to grab or whatever, and you shifting out of the way, doing these multiple unbalancing kind of things at the same time, and you step in with a palm strike to the chest or to the face or whatever, and literally take the guy off his feet, and it just drops him to the ground. It's really, really easy, very quick. It's a cool technique, right? But anyway, and I'm laughing, right, because it was funny, right? But it was, again, people attack, right? But they don't realize what kind of an ass they're making out of themselves because they don't do their own homework, right? They just have this need to shut somebody down and invalidate them in whatever way that they think is going to work, and everybody else is going to laugh, right? At their target, but the people that really know what they're looking at or know what they're doing, right, end up laughing at the person who's doing the attacking. But anyway, right? So here, do this technique, right? And it was very, very quick. I mean, 3 to 5, maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 second video clip where I demonstrated full speed. We slow it down, then we do it again, right? And you get people doing their normal comments, whether it was helpful, whatever, And then we get to this guy, and his comment was, the only thing this guy can push like that is the door at McDonald's. And I was like, well, that's a good one. Right? So anyway, right? I don't know what bearing that has on whether or not the technique works, the technique is effective, I did it right, wrong, whatever. It was just, this is it, right? And my comment to him was, thanks for your input, thanks for playing. Next. So, and we'll get to my tactics for handling these things, but again, so they could attack your personality. They could attack, the way you dress. You get it, right? I mean, this is where it starts to sound like bullying. But they could also attack your proficiency level, your skill sets, your ways of doing things. Right? This is not the same as knowledge, right? This is your actions, right? And they could also use creative manipulation, we'll call it, right? So one way that this could look is they uh, they become your friend, right? Or they feign friendship, right? To get close, and then they can stab you in the back, or throw you under the bus or whatever, right? So are there other ones? Are there different? Yeah, there's different manifestations of these same things, but it's not always overt, right? It's not, right? It could be just this deception, this creative manipulation could be they're just running around behind your back, right? Talking about you and reframing or pre-framing people's opinion about you before they even meet you, right? So that's the overt side, right? This is the omote side of how this works, right? Um, what we normally see and what we normally experience is how they're coming at us, right? If we dive into our Ninpo Mikyo, right, the philosophy, the mind science behind all this stuff, right? In Mikyo, these are known as the five poisons or the five hindrances to enlightenment, right? And we can be doing these things too, right? But if we're looking at the haters, right, what we can be looking at is what's really at the root of these things, right? And so there are these five areas, right? There's pride, there's anger or aversion, that kind of thing, right? They don't like you for whatever reason, right? Um, there's desire or attachment, right? They've got something they want, right? There's jealousy, right? Or envy, right? That kind of thing. And then there's delusion or ignorance, right? They're screwed up in the head, or they misunderstand things from a certain direction, but they're stuck on it, right? And they're going to come at it from that direction, right? So, there are these, again, it's kind of boils up and where it comes from, but again, there's these different areas that can be targeted, and if you know where it's coming from, if you know not just what they're targeting, right, but how that works, right, why they're picking that thing, right, psychologically, bullies never operate in a realm where they feel weak, right? You're not going to find some scrawny, egghead, super smart kid that thinks he's smarter than everybody else threatening to beat up people for their lunch money, right? Because he just knows he's going to lose in a battle like that, right? So this is the person that throws mental manipulation games at you, and so when you don't know, they can laugh at you for not being smart enough, that kind of thing, right? Same thing. The guy who threatens to beat you up for your lunch money, probably not getting involved in like mental gymnastics and stuff, because he knows he just can't measure up, right? He already feels inept in that direction, so it's just easier to just, because I've got the bigger body, the bigger army and whatnot, right? I'll just threaten to beat you up. Okay. I've actually had that happen, right? In this art where people, threaten to, and it goes on a lot, not just me, and it hasn't happened in years, but there's that kind of thing, right? In the martial arts, right? Everything's about physical prowess, and I can beat you up, and my pink leopard kung fu can defeat your yellow bellied sapsucker karate style, whatever, right? That's the basis of Saturday kung fu theater kind of things, right? My eagle claw can destroy your dragon tongue, and whatever, right? It's just this bullshit that goes on. So, but this is something that James and I had actually talked about a bunch of episodes ago. Maybe not that many. James, remember we were we're talking about, and I think we were even laughing about some of the folks that are, they're playing this mutual admiration society kind of thing, and just knocking everybody else. But right, they're also there's all this not just mudslinging, but they're challenging each other to fights, right? As though whoever wins the fight today somehow validates their philosophical, mental perspective, whether their information is right or not right, or their taijutsu is better or not better. Or come on, seriously, right? Um, anyway, so there's that, right? So James, do you have anything to throw on this fire? I'm going to pull James into this thing because he's a black belt too. It's been around the martial arts, and he sees more stuff going on online than I do, because frankly, I don't care. Right? I absolutely do not care what everybody else is doing, unless I'm researching and going out and looking for answers or whatever. I have too much stuff going on in my own life. I do not let the internet or technology or whatever suck my brain out and allow me to get caught up in drama and other bullshit, because I got shit to do. I got stuff to do. And if you do too, then it's in your best interest to not be worried about what everybody else is thinking, saying, doing, or whatever either. Right. But that's just from my perspective. Okay. The only time that I ever step up is when somebody crosses a line, and it's going to affect the dojo. It's going to affect my family and my ability to support them and take care of them, or it's going to affect my friends or other people that uh, I have taken upon myself as having a duty or responsibility to protect in one way or another. Right? They don't cross those lines, right? And attacking me, you can, if you understand what this is like, right? Takamatsu talked about this a long time ago, right? Of course, I got this secondhand through Hatsumi-Sensei, but he once said that only those people who have something valuable to lose, right, can actually understand what it means to be a warrior, right? They're not fighting over stupid things. They're not making bad choices where you risk losing everything, right? Only those people who have nothing to lose and everything to gain, if they take that chance and win, right, are willing to jump in and fight for whatever, whenever, right? Even if I'm fighting for other people, right? I just heard somebody the other day talk about how they took it upon themselves as a warrior, right, to fight for those people who can't fight for themselves. And how the hell do you know that they can't fight for themselves? Right? I see people fighting for other people all the time, and those people never ask for it. They don't see themselves as victims, and they're holding their own just fine, right? And the person who's fighting for them, um, they've got half the story, or they're following media stories or whatever, right? And it's what they're chasing down, and what they're operating from is a belief or a perception, not actual data, right? So it's their reality, not necessarily the reality of the people they've chosen to defend and protect. So anyway, it is what it is. So anyway, James, go ahead and fire it up so you can have your little window. Okay. And I know those of you who are on audio only have no clue, but James actually has to do that so that his mic goes live, and he's not sending me weird Kuji hand signals, and I have to translate. Anyway, you've been around for a while, and I think we talked about this recently, right? You're on this super growth thing at the moment, right? This path and all that. Has any of that pulled? Uh, call them haters, call them detractors, call them whatever you want. Has that pulled anybody out, um, or caused anybody to step up to put you in your damn place? Tell you, right? Who do you think you are to be doing this kind of thing?
Not with me personally. I mean, from most of what I see, most of that takes place online where everybody's behind screens and nobody's ever, in the same room even.
The anonymous, right? Yeah.
Right.
Knock on my door, show up at my dojo, say the same thing, right? You may win, but you're not going to remember you're not going to forget our encounter ever. Anyway, yeah, and I agree, right? There's all this cyber shit going on. whether they're anonymous or not, right?
Right. And for the most part, right now, I keep most of that stuff. It's just I don't put it online or my personal stuff online right
Sure.
now. Um, I just see some stuff, cruising through some, just through some stuff online. But usually most of my time online spent doing, you know, work like this to, promote this kind of stuff and put out what, or at least what, I find to be more valuable and helpful for people more than, dramatic BS
Yeah,
about,
well, maybe some folks can relate that are listening, right? Remember in your early days of like when you were first starting martial arts or any of this stuff, right? Um, did you ever have anybody like step up and either make the weird ass karate moves and stuff and the
oh yeah,
karate guy that kind of
for
thing,
sure.
or there's all kinds of tactics that are used. I know my kids at the school, we have to we teach certain lessons about how to handle that, right? Because that's going to happen, right? It's easier for, and I'm going to use the word bully, right? But it's easier for the hater, the bully, whatever, to knock you down, to throw out whatever they think they can, right? To threaten to kick your butt, to call you names, to make fun of the fact that you do karate or whatever they want to call it in the day, right? It's easier for them to do that to get you to stop than it is to lose the control or the fear factor or whatever that they have, right? If you continue, and it's also easier for them to do that to get you to quit than it is for them to step up and do the same kind of hard training and time investment and all that kind of stuff that you're doing, right? So often people will come at things because there's a lack within themselves, right? They don't feel
Mm.
like they've got anything other than the intimidation tactics or whatever. I've always told these stories about my very abusive stepfather when I was growing up, and our relationship changed when uh, I was able to neutralize all those things, and the tactics weren't going to work anymore. Right? I
Hmm.
was the same size. My skill set was way different than him just being able to throw a punch, kind of thing. The mental, the insults and things like that no longer worked when all that stuff changed. Right? So anyway, yeah, no, that's all good. And while we're on this, we might as well just jump into the. Does anybody have any comments coming in or anything? I mean, people are certainly willing, not willing. They're certainly free to post anything if you've got any stories or any little, even if you could just relate right to what we're talking about here. Um, uh, anyway, so you'll keep track of that as it comes in. Do you want to throw anything else on this fire before I move to the uh, kind of the intent or the why behind these tactics that people throw out?
No, I'm good. We can.
Okay. All right. So again, we're just gonna kind of run around the bases or run around the mandala or whatever, right? So defending against these things, if you don't understand, and again, this goes back to Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? If you understand neither yourself nor the enemy, you don't have a chance in hell of winning unless you luck out, right? If you only understand the enemy or you only understand yourself but not the other, for every success, you're going to suffer a loss, right? I think the numbers are that's giving a 50-50 kind of thing is generous, right? It's a crapshoot, right? People tend to settle into whatever habit patterns they have because whatever they're doing works more often than not, but it doesn't have to work that much more often, right? Or it could just have worked. You tried it 5 times when you were young, it worked 3 times and failed twice, so that was the more often, right? And then that's what you stuck with, but you haven't had to use it. You just have these memories to go off of, kind of like we were at a fair on Saturday, had a small group over there, and we were going to be doing a demo and stuff like that. And this happens all the time, right? Somebody comes up. I had some woman come up, and she was interested for her grandson. I think maybe it was her nephew, right? But she had this black belt, right? Oh, I already got a black belt, right? And oh, okay, great. Where'd you train? Oh, I trained this place here. But the more we talked, the more it became evident, and then she finally said it, that had been a long time ago, right? So you earned a black belt at some point, but do you still possess the same skill sets as a black belt, right? Luckily, she was very nice. We chatted and all that kind of stuff, and then she started talking about, do we offer meditation, whatever, right? She wasn't arrogant or anything like that, but there was this air of when she first said it, right? And again, those of you on audio, you can't see this, but I'm gonna puff out my chest a little bit, and that causes the head go up and the chin goes up a little bit when she said, "Or I have a black belt." Oh, great. I mean, her voice didn't get deep like mine did there. Just so we're clear about this, in case she ever hears this, right? So, but this kind of thing happens, right? So anyway, right? So let's go around. Let's go around. We'll go around the model again. Take a look at the why or the intent. Well, let me finish out the thought I had because my brain's all over the place at the moment. Um, uh, in Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? The win lose ratio kind of thing, right? It's only when you understand them, you understand you, right? And you can fit in to what's going on, right? Can you be damn near indestructible? Which I think is what everybody's going after, invincibility and all that. The reality, the enlightenment comes when you realize that no one's invincible. Part of the invincibility is knowing when to step up and when to shut up, when to escape and when to be present, right? So there's that, right? Um, But knowing the bad guy is not as simple as just knowing his fight style and knowing some defenses against that, right? If you can go back beyond that and know where that aggression and whatnot is coming from, right? Now, when I counter things, I'm not just ducking punches. I'm not just avoiding kicks. I'm not waiting until the slander or whatever bullshit's coming in my direction, right? I can neutralize that, but that can keep the anger going. It can reinforce things. It can make him go for reinforcements or whatever, right? But if I can get at the heart of things, of where that's coming from, I can change everything, right? Or if I can know where somebody's coming from before they even open their mouths, right? And I can control the engagement, the relationship, that kind of thing. Not in a forceful way, right? I just control it in a way that it keeps them off balance, or it puts them into a position where um, they can't they can't use the tactic that they're best at, right? So, and that's really where that comes at. And we'll look at that in a bit here, right? But again, let's just run around it again, right? So, what's the intent, or what's the why behind why these attacks would come out, right? Or the intent behind the tactic, right? So, they could have this need to be the authority, right? Right? They just it's look. I've put on in all this time, effort, money, whatever, to be the guy or to be the girl, right? And so look at all I know, right? I need to be that person. Here comes somebody along, or comes along where they seem to know what they're doing, right? Other people might start paying attention to that, whatever, right? And so for some people, instead of being okay at being one of the experts, or being, somebody who is helping your little corner of the world, right? They need to knock the other person down, right? It's a story from old India, right? It's a story in Buddhism. There's this emperor, Ashoka, and he absolutely believed that if you needed to knock somebody else down to elevate yourself, then you were already beneath those people. Okay, you were already beneath your target, right? So he believed this so strongly that the one single law out of all the laws in his kingdom was inscribed on these road stones, markers, kind of thing, that were put out on roads leading into his kingdom at the edges, right? So as soon as you were coming in, you would pass this stone, right? And the stone had this law where if you engaged in those kind of tactics, right? If you had to knock somebody else down to elevate yourself, right? Especially on the spiritual world and all that. But it could be in anywhere in your life, right? If you were an abuser, to knock other people down, and that's how you were elevating yourself, right? Um, that crime was punishable by death, which seems pretty strong. But we live in a time now where um, you can be rude, you can be abusive, you can be manipulative, you can destroy somebody's life, but as long as you don't physically touch them, there's no law against that, right? Unless there's like slander or whatever. That's really, really, really hard to prove, right? But if you come at me and you're tearing things down and you're harming things or whatever, and I punch you in the face because you're being disrespectful, see, I'm the one who goes to jail for that. It's just flipped, right? But you also have to remember that we're talking centuries ago, right? And in another part of the world, whatever, right? So um, they also believed in reincarnation. So killing you was like a do-over, right? So if I whack your ass, then you get a chance to try again at being a decent human being instead of being this weakling who goes to the world knocking other people down to elevate yourself. That's what I grew up with, right? That was the tactics. And until I was able to get to a certain point where that was all neutralized and the scale got tipped, that person continued to operate the way they did, right? So anyway, right? So there's that need to be the authority, need to be the guy, the girl, whatever, right? Okay. Another why, right, is that somebody's afraid of the truth, right? They've either deluded themselves or um, they they want to hold on to disinformation, misinformation, whatever, right? And so they don't want to be corrected, right? They learn something very quickly, and this is one of those things that ego is really really good at, right? Will run around, especially in the spiritual realm and the academic realm. It'll run around, and instead of doing the research, instead of doing the work, instead of validating evidence and information or whatever, it's like people that scroll their phones, right? And they're getting all their news based on headlines, right? That are very manipulative, right? Because the headline's designed to get you to read the damn article or to stay tuned for the news story, right? But in their haste to get to the next martial arts or self defense video, in their haste to get to the what the next, I don't know, silly cat video, whatever, right? They're just skimming through here and then they're getting outraged because this is what they're seeing. But if you actually opened up the article and see what the headline says, you get down way down, right? Paragraph 13, 14, 21, whatever, where you realize that, oh, well, shit, that's not what the information says, right? Um, it says that it could be, or it suggests that, or whatever. But the headline flat out says scientists discover, or this politician screwed people over, or what, But if they don't want to do that, right? So they end up developing these belief systems, or they have this body of knowledge that's really more like sound bites, right? Little snippets, or the quotes on memes that we see, right? And that makes me enlightened because I can regurgitate that back, right? I grew up with people that had certain religious affiliations, right? And so what they did all the time was they just walked around quoting Bible passages, right? And then I became the irritation when I said, say that in your own words and give me 3 examples in everyday life that show that in action. Well, then, what I got was everything from, you know, uh, blasphemer to whatever names, because, you don't mess with God's. And this is not about God. This is not about my relationship. This is nothing like that, right? This is stop throwing out sound bites as an attempt to make and when I say the word you, I'm not talking to you, because we're all enlightened, right? So all my listeners and whatnot, right? It couldn't possibly be us, right? So when I say you, it's general, so don't freak out, right? And if you are freaking out, you can just hit the freaking click a button and go off to the next something that you do want to listen to. Anyway, uh, so it's a soundbite, right? So they don't want the truth, right? What they want is to sound like they have the knowledge. They want to sound like they're the harbinger of truth, right? It's they're not really open to learning anything new or finding where, oh crap, I thought that was true, but it's really like this. Oh, wow. Okay. Um, the amount of hate that was thrown at now she might be dead at this point, but a bunch of years ago, right? And I think most people probably have heard the story, right? Um, the woman that burned herself with McDonald's coffee. James, you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, yeah. I mean, man, she was in news stories, Saturday Night Live, and all these comedians made fun of her, all kinds of stuff, right? The only magazine that actually published the real story, right, was Newsweek, right? Meanwhile, everybody else is just flaming her. They're making comments. Oh, burn yourself with a coffee and stuff, and you can sue for millions. She didn't sue for millions, right? She burned herself with the coffee, right? Because the coffee is not the normal 165 degrees or whatever it is that comes out of your Mr. Coffee or your Keurig or whatever, right? McDonald's cooks their coffee at well over the boiling point of 212 degrees. Okay. So it is scalding in the cup. Okay. So, and this didn't come out until the trial, civil suit, whatever, right? She wasn't suing for that, right? She scalded herself, right? She was on fixed income, and she went to McDonald's, that particular McDonald's, and she said, "Look, I need extra work above what Medicare pays for, right? Can you guys take care of this?" And they're like, "No," right? So it keeps moving along. Medical things are escalating and all that because she had like second and I think second, almost third degree burns, right, from this coffee, right? It wasn't just a little spill. And so she hired a lawyer, right? She just wanted the lawyer to apply some pressure. She needed her medical bills paid for. It was just a simple kind of thing, right? McDonald's took that all the way to court, right? And it was actually McDonald's lawyers who screwed McDonald's over. They didn't turn on him, right? It was arrogance that did it. Okay. So this is a jury trial, right? All she wanted covered, and now at this point, all she wants covered is her medical bills and her legal expenses, right? That's all it was for, right? We're talking about a couple of tens of thousands of dollars, right? Not, and I know how that still sounds a lot, but it wasn't the millions that she got. Okay. So what it came down to was the lawyers, um, her lawyer had some McDonald's executives on the stand, and they testified. One of the questions was, "Is this a isolated event?" No, no, no. People burn themselves in our coffee all the time, right? Well, how many? Well, I don't know, a couple of thousand a year. Okay, that's interesting, right? Um, uh, so it just goes on, right? So they pull out all this information, and then during closing arguments, the McDonald's lawyer looks at the jury and says, "Look, yeah, a couple of hundred people a year, a couple of thousand a year, whatever. McDonald's sells billions of cups of coffee a year. A couple of thousand people getting burned is insignificant in the total number of cups of coffee being sold." Okay. So this is just one of those things, right? It's hot coffee, right? What they also pulled out was that to pull as much coffee out of the beans as possible, McDonald's was cooking the coffee at about 230 degrees. Okay. And then that comes out of the machine, goes in your cup, goes out to you. And so if you've ever scalded your tongue on hot anything, right? One of the reasons is because the higher the temperature, the more they can get that stuff out of the coffee beans and cut expenses and get more cups of coffee out of the same beans, right? So anyway, when the jury came back, they awarded this woman all of those millions. What was it, like, I don't know, 770, whatever, right? All these millions of dollars, and their thing was, one person is not insignificant, let alone thousands, and they thought that this lawyer's, whatever. But my point is that story was buried, right? One business magazine actually did that story, but everybody else was knocking it. And then, if any of the reasons came out, those stories were now tiny because we're off on the next big sensational kind of thing, right? So everybody in the country was convinced that this little old lady was looking to sue a major corporation because she spilled coffee on herself and made a big deal out of some hot coffee because everybody spilled some hot coffee and, oh shit, that's hot, right? And you get it off of yourself and all that. But they didn't. Most people have never been burned by coffee at the temperature that. Do you get where I'm coming from? Right. So this whole thing got manipulated. Right. And in all honesty, most people don't want the truth. Right. What they want is whatever the truth is that comes from their favorite sources. Truth is politically motivated, and I don't mean government politically. I mean, you put two people in a room and they start talking about the same subject, they're going to have their own little opinion about it, and then they're going to argue to get the other person to buy their opinion, right? That's what I mean, right? So, whatever we believe is true is what we're going to argue for and what we're going to stand for. And then what we're also going to do is run around and find other people that tell us the exact same thing that we want to hear. And that's called confirmation bias, right? It keeps us bullshitting ourselves, right? So it's how people choose churches, schools, friends, whatever. Tell me what I want to hear, and we're going to be the best of friends. Okay? You want to really learn something, you really want to pressure test things, right? Go have a conversation with somebody that believes exactly the opposite, right? And not make it a fight, right? Go in intending to learn something other than reinforcing your belief that they're an asshole who doesn't know anything. And so when you walk out, all you did was prove yourself right. Okay. In Mikyo, right, in our highest level of things, right? No one group, organization, whatever, is the harbinger of all truth. And so once you graduate basically from the program, right, and you go out into the world, you start looking at everything, right? Including and especially those things that seem to be at odds with or opposite from what it is that you think is right, right? Because you will find truth in the damnedest places, right? You will find truth coming out of the mouths of your enemy. I remember posting some quotes that I thought, wow, that's really cool. That'll help students. Post these things online, and every time I do it, somebody jumps on and wants to talk about the personality, the atrocities, the whatever of this person, and my response is always the same. How does that change the truth of this thing, right? Of this statement, okay? How does knocking that person negate the truth of this statement, okay? Come at me with something where there's experiences that show that that's not always the case, whatever, right? But knocking the person and their character, even if they were shit, even if they were Adolf Hitler, whatever, right? It doesn't make them being who they were and all this bad stuff doesn't negate this. Adolf Hitler, right, created the interstate highway systems, the Autobahn in Germany, and the interstate idea, right, for the rest of the world. So does that mean that because he was a freaking demon that murdered or was responsible for helping to murder or being the cause of the murder, however you want to do that, right, of millions and millions of people, that we shouldn't drive on interstates and get from point A to point B faster? Just checking, right? The fact that Henry Ford operated a certain way and believed that, he had his employees, working their fingers to the bone and all that. Should we not ever drive any cars because, well, all cars are offshoots of what he seriously. Okay. So we need to focus on what's there, right? But either way, they're afraid of the truth, right? They're saboteurs, right? So they like wrecking things, right? They will deceive, manipulate, go out of their way to figure out how to flat out undermine somebody, right? Okay. So, and this is a good strategy and tactic, right? If I can get somebody from getting to that level of skill, that's going to be a challenge for me, right? If I can, you know, uh, disarm them, screw up their training, their preparation, cut off their supply lines, whatever, right? These are military tactics, right? If I can do that, then I can keep them in a position where I'm always in the stronger position. And then I have to hope that they die before I become old and weak and frail, where they could kick my ass, right? But then they don't think that way, right? What else do I have here, right? They need to be the center of attention. This is not the same as being the authority. Okay, somebody doesn't have to be the authority or the the the, the go to, the expert. When I say authority, I mean the expert and all that, right? They just need to be the one that's getting the most attention. Okay. Um, Again, without naming names, right? This happened not too long ago. James probably remembers when this happened, right? One of my students had been at one of our seminars, and I said something that was really, really helpful. He typed it up and turned it into a meme and posted it, right? And what I did was, he was sharing stuff around. And I thought, oh, that, other people could benefit from that little thing. And really, it was a synthesized thing from things that I'd gotten from my teachers, and then kind of put my little spin on it, right? But I posted it, and in retrospect, I should have probably just, redid it, dropped my name off or whatever. But I just shared it over, right? And this person who is trying to be the guy, right, in their own little realm, and get lots of attention in some of the damnedest, goofiest ways, right? Like focus, right? But anyway, right? Um, what he posted, what his comment under my post was, "Ooh, at what rank does one have to be to begin quoting themselves?" And I apologized and I said, "Oh, would you like me to rewrite this, recreate the meme, and repost it?" So it's in the third person and not in the first person. And I explained what happened, right? My student did this. I thought it'd be helpful for folks. Toss it out. There it is, right? No response. Okay, fair enough. We don't have to have this discussion, right? I left it alone. I don't know if James, do you remember if he deleted it? You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I believe it was deleted, if I remember correctly.
Fantastic, right? It was up in lots of other places. So, and then the other one is they're empty, right? They don't have anything of value themselves, right? And again, people aren't normally this extreme. There's elements of several things in somebody's actions, right? But either way, right? They don't have anything of value themselves to offer, so they go around wrecking everybody else's because you know it's kind of like if I can't have the girl, nobody can have the girl, right? Or if I can't have the toy, nobody can have the toy, so I'll just break it, kind of thing, right? So again, weird, wild dynamics, and again, this is not a big enough format to go through. Which program do we have the 5 needs and 5 desires in, or the 5 weaknesses and the 5 desires? That's actually in the psychological warfare stuff from the Togakure school. I don't remember, but either way, I don't know if it's in Ninja no Hachimon, might be. Got that out, but a lot of this goes to the crux of the life mastery program and some of the other stuff we have going on. Right, Ninja Mind has some of that stuff in it. So, anyway, so here's this intent, and if you know what it is, right, if you know what's going on, then you're not defending yourself against words, right? Oh yeah, well let me enlighten you about something, right? If you know where it's coming from, the weakness that they're trying to cover it up, the desire, right, that they're trying to express or whatever, right? And you cut that, then you change everything, right? The biggest thing you change is you don't look like the same asshole, the same kind of asshole where you both are just mudslinging back and forth, which is the stuff you and I were talking about in that previous thing where it's just freaking embarrassments to the art, right? People are just, and not only are they having like, it's one thing if you're having a private issue with somebody and you got this bullshit going back and forth, But to air your dirty laundry on the internet, see, the agenda behind that is how many fans can I get? How many people can I get on my side, right? So now we've got armies of ignorant asses throwing shit back and forth, right? Um, it is what it is, right? So anyway, before I jump on into the defense tactics for these, anybody on saying hi, whatever. I don't want to wait till the end for this. Um,
Jimmy and Jen said hi, and
hey,
hey, Jonathan Brown said, "Of course, peer pressure to conform is real, especially because it requires you to go against the non-warrior culture mindset most of the time."
I've said this and I'll say it again, right? It never ceases to amaze me how many people who are supposedly training to be warriors cave when it comes to words or emotions or whatever coming at them, right? I was just talking about this with my stepson. He left today to go to the Air Force for his basic training, and I was sharing this with him, right? That you need to have integrity. You need to stand up and be the guy, right? If you're going to fold, and what I was trying to explain to him was that basic training, yes, you're learning, military skills that everybody needs, but the biggest thing you're learning how to do is operate as a member of a team for a common goal, right? And the drill sergeants are doing what they're doing because their number one task, especially in the early weeks, is to apply enough pressure to get those who fold under pressure to weed themselves out, to disqualify themselves, right? So, yes, they are trying to get you to quit, right? Because people that will be dependent upon you to watch their back and to protect their lives, just like they're going to be protecting yours, don't need somebody who's going to be turning and running or folding under pressure. And if you're going to fold when somebody's yelling and screaming at you, how the hell can anybody depend on you when the bombs are going off and the bullets are flying? Right? It's that kind of thing. Okay. Um, I told this story before. We used to go to fairs and whatnot, and help to promote the dojo in the summertime. One of the things that we did wasn't just go to do demos, because I see martial arts, the groups form, they go, they do their demo, they may stick around for a couple minutes to answer questions, or people come up and they get their information and whatnot, right? But then they leave, right? Strategically, what I wanted to do was have a reason to be at the fair all day long, not just for our demo, right? So we invented a game booth, right? Created this ninja star throw kind of thing, right? People pay whatever they pay, right? They get 5 rubber stars, right? They throw at this target that we have that has a smaller thing. We put cones at certain distances. So the little kids, right? It's just difficult for them, but they're standing way close. Older kids, teens and adults, that kind of thing, right? Same, whatever, right? So 3 in wins, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that we give a guest pass to everybody who plays, win or lose, right? It allows us to be there all day long with information spread out to be able to answer questions, regardless of whether they play the game or not. And the other thing we did was we went around with some surveys, and we went around giving guest passes and all that kind of stuff, right? And it was a seasoning kind of thing, right? Because I've got students who want to be instructors, right? So they should be helping to promote the school, right? Just like doctors need patients, instructors need students, right? But the biggest thing that really took me was how many of these folks who were training to not let strangers kill them could not walk up to strangers and offer them something that was valuable, right? We're offering everybody in the area during the fair and everything. We're offering them, a way to come in and try martial arts, try our self defense method and whatnot, right? Try this stuff that really changes lives, right? They were terrified, and I had to look at these people and say, you know what? These people are more terrified of you for the very fact that you're in a martial arts uniform wearing a belt. But most of these people could not walk up to strangers, again, who were more concerned about them, the martial artist, than they should have been for these other people, right? But there was this weird mental thing going on. Does that make sense? Right? I mean, does my words make sense? Because the psychology doesn't make any sense. They want to be this indestructible. I'm not afraid of anybody. But what it really comes down to is I want to be able to handle knives, guns, things that can literally kill me, but I'm terrified to have a discussion about certain things with my wife or girlfriend. I'm terrified to walk up to a stranger and say, "Hi, my name is, who are you?" I'm terrified. The hell is that? I don't get it, right? Oh, I don't want to make anybody angry, right? One of my mentors likes to say that most people's problems with becoming successful is they're crippled by their need to be liked, to not have people be angry at them, right? So they won't do, there's certain things they won't do, or they'll keep getting pulled away from this thing they're trying to do, right? Because, well, work life balance, work what? No such thing, right? No such thing. You want to have all those great things? Get this shit done that will provide all the benefits that will let you do that other thing. Kick back and relax. Most people, want to kick back and relax. And I get it, right? Want to kick back and relax and not work so hard and everything. Great. But you know what? That takes a lot of work to get to a certain point where you don't have to work anymore, or you don't have to work as much. Just like your martial arts training. You put in all the training and all the hardship to get to a point where you don't have to worry about anybody freaking jumping up. Hatsumi-Sensei always talked about this. The more you train, the less likely somebody's going to step up. And it's not because you're walking around with a chip on your shoulder. It's because you're more aware, you carry yourself more differently, you're more humble, you're more respectful, all that kind of stuff, right? You're not triggering more people to want to jump on you. Or you lose the character traits that said, "Hey, I'm a victim, punch me in the face, or insult me, or whatever it is." Okay, isn't that the irony, right? The more, the farther you go, and the more able you are to handle yourself, the less likely you're going to have to use your skills. But there's a lot of work, like ninjutsu, where I always describe ninjutsu as the lazy person's martial art, right? Because you're doing energy conservation and relaxed energy and timing, and look at Hatsumi-Sensei, right? And how he was an example of this stuff and whatnot. You're just not frying yourself trying to save your life, right? But there's a lot of freaking work that goes in to achieving this level of relaxed energy and energy conservation and all that. Unless I have this backwards. James, do you find there's a lot of work to
Just a little bit.
get to where you don't have to work, right? But people don't want that. They don't want the time. They don't want the effort. They don't want anything like that. What they want is the results today and free, right? Doesn't work that way. Even if you don't have to pay money for it, you still have to expend energy. You still have to, rearrange your life. You have to do the do, right? But everybody thinks that they can get to Hatsumi Sensei's level, Takamatsu Sensei's level, whoever you hold in that inspires you or you aspire to be like, that they can get there without all the time, effort, resources, or whatever that those people spend. Hatsumi Sensei's always said, successful people spend at least 3 times more in the way of time, effort, money, and everything else that goes into it to be successful than everybody else. And that's why they're successful. They also fail more often. Okay? Failure is the key to success. No, everybody's afraid of failure because they only want to try once. Right? It's supposed to work the first time around. Okay? The reason why a lot of people are successful is because they've tried more things, failed more times, so that they could find those 1 or 2 things that were really going to work really, really well. Most people don't want the anguish, right? They want everything to be like, the 6-year-old making a wish and blowing out the candles on the birthday cake. If that worked, all the shit you've ever wished over candles on a birthday cake, you would have. I know. It's disappointing, isn't it? Anyway, all right. So let's take a look at some defense tactics for these haters, right? Because what we want to do is we want to stop them in their tracks, right? What we really want to do is do things because, and this is going to play into next week's episode because I gave people this choice, right? So we're going to do them both anyway. Next week, we're going to talk about this epitome of what this art is supposed to produce for you, right? We'll describe it in different ways, but the short form is you become invisible in the eyes of the enemy. That's the way it's written in some of the scrolls, right? It doesn't mean you become translucent, right? I don't need anybody looking through me, right? But you become invisible in the eyes of the enemy, which means you never have to freaking duck a punch. You never, that's cool, right? I mean, that's, some people it's not cool for because to them, being the man means they can beat the shit out of anybody who crosses them. Okay? Well, first of all, drop your ignorance and expectations and pride and envy and all that kind of crap, and then nobody will slight you. Okay? But anyway, that being what it is. Okay. We'll talk about that, but there's actually 3 levels, right? That's the highest level. There's 2 before that, and we're going to talk about why the training starts where it does and how it's easy and why people get stuck there, right? Because they can't see beyond that. But anyway, all right. So defense tactics, right? So one, we can call them out, right? Somebody knocks you, your intelligence, your whatever. I'm about to formulate a response to somebody who posted something on the latest video that we had out on the wrist grab defenses, right? So if you haven't seen it yet, you can go over to YouTube, over to our channel over there. It's, what is it? I don't know. It's Jeffrey Miller or it's Kage 36 or I don't know. We'll make sure we post the little thing to it. James, do you know it off the top of your head?
It should be Kage 36
Okay.
for the actual URL.
Yeah. So, but anyway, uh, just a couple of our beginner, right, wrist grab defenses and all those kind of things. I covered why somebody might grab those kind of things, right? Little backstory to that. What if it doesn't work? That kind of thing, right? All this stuff is in there, right? And so this guy posts this thing, right? 24 years in the martial arts. I don't know what the hell that has to do with anything, right? Because he's trying to establish credibility, but that doesn't tell me anything because there's this karate myth. I call it the karate myth that just because you have a black belt, that means that you can either defend yourself or teach other people to defend themselves. Okay. A lot of these people have no experience being in that bubble, right? They have no idea. Anyway, not saying they don't stand a good chance, but I also wouldn't say that a high school wrestler can't defend themselves. Okay. But the way they train and what they train for isn't self-defense. Okay? It's not to say that they can't defend themselves. I wouldn't say that a basketball player couldn't defend themselves, right? So anyway, but the first thing he started off with was, if I were you, I would not be passing on the same bullshit that's failed so many people and blah, 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 right? Well, without going into this long thing, if you get to it within, I don't know, maybe a week or so, you'll see that I have a 3-part kind of response, right? The first part is, you're right. You're not me. Because if you were me, you would have already done the research on somebody's background before knowing whether or not. One of the things he pointed out was I should pressure test my stuff before, right? Most of the stuff I teach my students, right, has been pressure tested and not in a ring, okay, against people that are extremely violent and try to beat, break, or kill other people that I was protecting or me, right? So he's right. He's not me. Because if it were me, I would have already double checked. Just like I did. I clicked on his username to go look at his videos and the training he's sharing with people because he has 24 years of experience. You know what I found? I found music videos that he copied and posted, and many of them were booted off because he pirated them. Okay, so I don't know if that tells me anything about his integrity or whatever. It doesn't matter. right? But a lot of these things need pointed out, right? Somebody grabs with intent, and I covered. So the next question I would have is, did you actually watch and listen to the whole thing, or did you have a preconceived notion and just were busy in your own head talking to yourself so you didn't hear what I said? Like if you do this and it doesn't work, you go on to some other technique that you have, right? Why somebody would grab, right? We're frustrating them. We're getting our hands are moving and whatnot, and so we grab. His thing was nobody does that. One of my black belts, the first thing he said was when I was growing up in Paterson, New Jersey, right? And I was getting into it with somebody. The first thing I would do is reach out and grab an arm or grab clothing and yank them into that next punch, which is something that we teach right in Mod 1, because that's what people do, right? Anyway, so I call them out on it, right? Show me, right, where this is. Did you not look at this? Whatever, right? This works really well on passive aggressive people that use something called presuppositions. Okay, here's an example of a presupposition. That test is so easy that even Bob could pass it. So, um, what did I just say without using the words? What did I just say? I just said the test is extremely easy. I just said that Bob's a moron, right? That test is so easy, even Bob could pass it, right? There's all kinds of things loaded into this, right? You want to protect yourself against people like that. First thing you need to do is call out those things, throw it out on the table, okay? That test is so easy, even Bob could pass it. Did you just call Bob a moron? No, I didn't use those words. That's not what I said. Yeah, that's what you said. I heard the words that you used, but language has all these like subtle kind of things. And if you can't pull those things out, if you can't put that up, right? Like if I were you, I would really, okay. So where's your stuff? Show me. Okay. Give me an example of something you would do and show me how that's legally or that's handles legal liability so that your strike first, strike hard, Cobra Kai, whatever, isn't going to land you in jail afterwards. How do you back up use of force? Okay? That's why we have our 8 phases of defensive tactics, which for those of you who've been through my 8 phases, I've just restructured that. I didn't restructure the 8 phases, but I added another layer, 3 stages, because those 8 phases can be broken up into 3 stages or types of training. Awareness, what you might call perivention or whatever, right? The actual active response stuff, and then the post-incident recovery phases, right? So it makes it easier for people to break things down and look at it and then see things from a different perspective, but high level, mid level, in the trenches level, that kind of thing, right? So it keeps you from just running around and collecting techniques like you're a stamp collector or something, right? Well, look, I filled my book. Who gives a shit? What can you do with it? Okay. Anyway, so one of the tactics is just call them out on it, right? That doesn't mean you need to go, yeah, well, and then do that mudslinging that these other guys were doing that I'm talking about, right? Just call them out on it, right? You're absolutely right. Because if you were me, the first thing you would have done before you commented was to double check the person's credentials and experience to see if they might actually know what they're talking about. Okay. And as a part of that, there will be a link to my CV, my professional CV, that lists all of my experience, including street experience and all that stuff. Not just articles that I wrote and other shit, right? But the things I've worked at and how I've had to deal with violence. Okay. So here you go. Okay. All that stuff, right? So anyway, did you watch it, right? Did you actually watch it? Because at this point, at 2 minutes and whatever it is, right? Whatever I specifically say, if this doesn't work, you have your other techniques. Okay. If the intent, right? Nobody grabs that way. Here's why somebody might grab that way. Okay. Did you actually watch the video? Okay. It's not an argument, right? I'm putting them in a position where they have to justify their statements and not just be throwing shit around. Okay. Usually what all my tactics are designed to do is to make these people that I can't make them not do what they do, right? People do what they do, right? But when they do it and that shit doesn't affect you, they go find easier targets. Right? And I don't care if they talk smack. Who gives a shit? Who are they going to talk smack to? They're going to talk smack to other people just like them, and I don't want them as students either. Because if they do talk smack to other people that either don't like them or know that they talk that way all the time, or they're actually looking for real stuff, they might go, really? Let me check that out. And they make up their own mind. I'm looking for people that are information gatherers to begin with, so I can teach them how to do that even better. I'm looking for people that are looking for strategic, tactical thinking kind of approaches and not just another technique to entertain them for 5 minutes. So great. Go tell all your friends. Good, bad, indifferent, right? You're just going to help me sort out the world a whole lot faster. I appreciate it. In the Bansen Shukai, there were ninja, right? There's all these different categories of ninja. If you want a quick reference, you can find Stephen Hayes' book, Ancient Art of Ninja Warfare, which is actually kind of a little bit of a rewrite on the Bansen Shukai. Pissed a lot of people off, but you know what? Holy crap, I got this thing translated, just this little section. I'm good, right? But there's a whole chapter on different types of ninja. And several of those had no idea that they were being used as ninja operatives. They were only known as ninja within the ninja organization. They were just being used, right? And I'm okay with using haters to help me sort out who's a good fit and who's not a good fit. Fantastic. Okay. All I ask is that you spell my name right. Okay. Let's see. Defense tactics, right? So another one might be deception, right? Just like there's some that will fake becoming my friend, right? So they can get into a position and undermine me, kind of thing, right? Okay. I could use deception. I can play along. I can allow them to trip themselves up or trap themselves. Okay. I can engage them in a conversation and ask questions that will tell me whether or not they actually know what they're talking about. Okay. I can obviously ignore them, right? I can let them do what they do, right? It sounds like an earth tactic, but it's more of a wind kind of thing, right? Where I just go, they say whatever they're going to say, and I go, okay, you win. That really throws people off, right? They might go away, smug, whatever. Yeah, I won that one. Or they might, right? Some people just want to fight to fight. They just want to argue to argue. I don't have time for that. Okay. Okay. You win. Right. Either way, they're going to go away. I don't care if you go away thinking that you won or you go away that you are suspicious that maybe I pulled some. I don't care. You went away. Not you. You guys are all cool. Right. Anyway, another one. I'll put them in the spotlight, or I'll put the spotlight on them. Okay. James knows I throw people off at the dojo all the time, and they're not haters or whatever, but they're trying to like manipulate around things or whatever. And I'll go, great, you teach. Okay, I usually do this to students who they come in with some kind of experience and whatnot, right? I'm teaching a class, and yeah, but can you do this? Yeah, but what about this? And I'll take a step back and I'll go, do you want to teach? What usually happens, James? Your I don't know if your mic's off or not. No, I don't think so. Now it's on.
There we go.
Yeah, what do they usually do?
No, no, no.
Yeah. And then they're quiet the rest of class.
Yep. No.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Okay, put the spotlight on somebody else. Okay. There's a neat psychology to that. Anyway, James must be having his snack. I'm going to get him off there. Anyway, and then let's see. I could also ask for proof. Okay. Ask them to explain. Right. This kind of goes along with the allow them to, trap themselves and all that. But I'm open. I'm always open to somebody else coming at, to having other information that might change my view, might help me out, might help me grow. Right. I'm always cool with that. Right. Now, if you're going to come at me with slander and hatred and aggression and all that, I'm not a dog. You don't get to bark at me. Okay. Not barking at you. You don't get to yank on my leash to get me to comply. Right. I'm less likely to heel when you issue commands. Right. So, but I can just ask them for proof. Right. Okay. Great. Been martial arts for 24 years. Great. Worked in law enforcement, security, military. How many fights have you been in? What was the context? Those kind of things. No, not competition. Competition doesn't count. Okay. Not saying you can't fight. Okay. What situations have you been in where somebody was literally trying to beat, break, or kill you because a self defense situation, a survival situation, is not the same as an organized fight? I don't care what anybody says. I've been in both. It's not the same. Okay. The intent of your opponent is not the same. And if it is, I'm not sure how he got into that organized thing because there's usually tons and tons of rules about those kind of things. Not that you might not go up against a psycho. Okay. So maybe there's a little bit of gray area, but no, it's kind of like me, having an argument with a kid over how the engine in my car works, and he's 6. He has no idea how an internal combustion engine works. I'm not getting into a conversation like that. But when this person presents whatever they're presenting, right? Show me. Okay. They're probably attacking me because they don't think I have any proof. Okay. So it's the same thing, right? The biggest thing that I think works for me, and it works all the time, and it's very subtle, is that um, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I know what I know. I know what I don't know, and goes from there. So anyway, I promised to share a couple of quick stories about Hatsumi-Sensei, that kind of thing, right? So uh, let's see, one good one. I think I shared this a couple of episodes ago, but just in case you're not following all the episodes, this should help out, right? Hatsumi-Sensei had a run-in with his cousin at one point, right? His cousin is Tsunihisa Tanamura. You might better know him as Shoto Tanamura, the guy who founded the Genbukan, right? Um, and so uh, when Tanamura Sensei broke from the Bujinkan, and he was very influential, right? He was Hatsumi Sensei's right hand man. Manaka Sensei took over after that little fallout kind of thing. He was the uh, Shidoshi who taught Stephen Hayes when Stephen Hayes went to Japan. He was the teacher that was assigned to kind of get him up to speed, so to speak, right? And so when there was this falling out, right? Tanamura Sensei thought that things should be done a certain way. Hatsumi Sensei was doing it a different way. Hatsumi Sensei is so gay, so he gets to do his thing, right? Well, anyway, there's this breaking away, go form this other organization kind of thing. And if you have any of the old ninja magazines, black belt magazines, anything like that from that period in the 80s, you'll see in these articles that Tanamura Sensei had written, right? Just inflamed kind of things, right? And the only thing that anyone ever heard Hatsumi Sensei say in the other direction, the only thing he ever said, right? He was quiet about the whole thing, and people were looking for him to defend himself and what do you say about this and whatever, right? And Hatsumi Sensei finally at one point said he's always wanted to be in charge. Now he is, and that's it. I thought that was pretty cool, right? Just it was just a one-off, and we're not going to discuss it. We're going to get back to training. Okay, so that kind of thing, right? Same thing. Takamatsu Sensei, right, was challenged by this one fighter over and over and over again, right? There were threats, there were insults, all kinds of stuff, right? The only reason why you don't want to fight me or whatever is because you don't have anything, blah blah blah, right? This whole thing, right? This is like something right out of a Karate Kid movie kind of thing, right? It wasn't until there were threats against this Japanese settlement in China. This is where this happened, right? In China, Takamatsu Sensei was kind of the unofficial protector for this settlement while he was living there, right? And made quite a name for himself. So much so that when a couple of thugs, a couple of bandits came to town and were trying to extort money from people, right? Takamatsu Sensei went out to meet them and found out that they worked for this big Chinese thug kingpin kind of guy, right? And Takamatsu said, "Will you tell?" I can't remember the name, the slur. It was like a little mouse or whatever, right? You tell him for me that the Mongolian tiger says this village, the settlement is mine, and if you're going to come back in here, he and I will have a conversation. Basically, that kind of thing. And these guys thought, "Oh man, he's going to come here and kill you," right? Well, they went back and told him, and he, I don't know if he beat the shit out of them literally or whatever, right? But they had to come back with their tails between their legs, apologize to Takamatsu Sensei, and like a box with money or something like that was given as a gift, right? To as this big apology, like had no idea, right? We didn't know it was you, whatever. So that kind of thing, right? But anyway, in this whole process, there was this guy that wanted to fight him, and it wasn't until there was this threat that, look, you may not care, but I'll go after something that you do care about. And then that's when he stepped up to, to do things. But it wasn't because they were calling him names. It wasn't because they were calling him we or whatever. It wasn't until they attacked something that was greater than himself and that he took it upon as his responsibility to protect. Right. So short stories, right? They seem like, wow, well, see, how was that the same as haters and whatnot? Well, you don't think somebody goading you into, um, uh, acting in a way that may not be beneficial to you or to people that depend on you, kind of thing. You don't think that's an issue? Anyway, all right. So we've been going at this for a little while. So, but those are, I think I did all of my 5 tactics, right? So call them out, put a spotlight on them, ask for proof, have them explain, right, their position, um, uh, ignore them, right? Let them do what they do, right? It's that almost that feeling of do as you choose, whatever you want, man. You do you, right? Or just flat out just look at them and go, okay, you win, right? That's the ultimate evasion, right? You just okay, you win, right? But that's really really hard for people that have huge egos that have to win, that have to argue, that have to have everybody know. So if we can't be one of these other people and personalities. We can't be led by pride or anger or avarice or aversion, whatever. Can't be led by desire, attachment, jealousy, envy, those kind of things. We can't be that person and be dealing with somebody who's a hater because we're throwing out the same kind of crap, right? It ends up being like 2 6-year-olds in a sandbox slap fighting, right? Just the enlightened warrior is above all of that, right? So one of the things that we have to do to defend ourselves against haters is make sure that we're not operating the same way. Right? In Mikyo, there's this character. It's called a bodhisattva or a mahasattva. Right? Bodhisattva, enlightened being, mahasattva, superior being, that kind of thing. It's not like superior, like for those of you who are on audio only, I'm puffing out my chest and stuff like that. It's not that kind of thing, right? It's somebody who's mature and above all that, right? So the idea of this bodhisattva, mahasattva kind of character, right, is that they are in the world, but they're not of the world, right? They're in the same world, moving around the same place that everybody else is. They're just not living, acting, thinking, and getting caught up by the same shit that has everybody else stuck, right, in the drama and all that kind of crap. So the big thing in Mikyo, we say, and a lot of the stuff comes from these personality realms. As a matter of fact, I think it's tomorrow night's coaching call with my long distance guys. I'm going to be going into these 6 poisons, right? We're going to be looking at these 6 realms and how they're traps and how to get out and all that. So there's this concept of a wheel, right? This thing that goes around very much. And in English, we say things like "same shit, different day." What goes around comes around, that kind of stuff, right? But it keeps us in the crap, right? It keeps us in the same experience, right? There's this reference, right, of getting off the wheel, right? Of escaping the thing. It's not about dying, not about going to heaven, not about anything like that, right? It's getting out of that same shit, right? And the first step in is seeing it more clearly, seeing what's really going on, right? Anyway, that's what I have. So, questions, comments, anything like that? I know the guys on the audio platforms, what Apple Podcast and Spotify and all that stuff, right? If you have any questions about anything, any of this stuff, or comments or whatever, you can always shoot us an email, right? Send it to warriorc@warrior-concepts-online.com. James, do we have another one? Did we set up another one just yet? I know we have info and support and all that kind of stuff, but Warrior C, is that still the general
Yes.
email thing? Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can send that stuff in, right? I read as much of those as possible. If I miss any, James will send me a message and say, "Hey, did you see this one?" Right? This guy's calling you all kinds of bad names and whatever. Or he'll chuckle, I'll chuckle, and whatever. Usually, what ends up happening is I go, go into the email thing and delete whatever list they're on. Just if it's a constructive kind of thing and it's open to debate and those kind of things and not being some arrogant malicious piece of shit, then I'll answer, right. um, I'm always open to dialogue, even with people that um, we don't agree. That's okay. That's a mature mind. Not that I'm mature all the time, but I mean, I do wear colorful shirts. And anyway, anybody have any comments or questions or anything?
No, I do not see anything.
You do not see anything.
I do not see
You
anything.
do not feed to her to he to her, right? Nothing, man. So either we put people to sleep or everybody already knew all this stuff. So cool. Or their heads have cracked open and we can't see it, which is probably for the best. So anyway, all right, cool. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, next episode, unless something changes, right? Going to be covering those 3 phases of training leading to this idea of invincibility in ninjutsu, right? One of the writings, right, is the epitome of the art of invisibility is to become invisible in the eyes of your enemies. Okay, pretty cool, right? But that's way up there. That's really advanced stuff, right? There's actually 3 phases of the kind of the approach to it, right? Um, of how to handle things, and they go in very specific order, and require obviously a different degree of skill for each one, right? Everybody wants to, when they hear the lessons and they get these things, they want to approach second and third level training and those goals before they have a handle on the first level things, or they just want to run around and do a whole bunch of stuff or invent their own systems or whatever. And what was that one thing I pointed out? Oh yeah, you can do whatever you want, do as you choose. Okay, you win. Okay, that doesn't necessarily make it right. Okay. Anyway, all right. So I think that's it. We'll go ahead and wrap things up. James, do you have anything else you want to throw on this fire before I wrap it up?
No, sir.
Nope. All right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night in class, and I think James has most of my other students beat as far as travel time to get to class. As most people, well, I can't travel for training, right? What do you do? Twice a week, right? There for a while, you were doing 3. It's what, an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, something like that, one way, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So that's why you come in for Tuesdays and train for 2.5 hours, something like that. So
Yes.
you're training more than you travel, not by much, right? Because it's 2.5, give or take, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on traffic, right? 2.5 hours round trip. Yeah, I mean that's why I did weekends when I went to train with my teacher. I would drive. It's 9 hours one way, not uphill both ways, nothing like that, right? It's not an old guy thing. From my house, right? And people are often like, why don't you take a plane or something? Because the closest airport is an hour from me, and then I've got waiting time and security and all that kind of stuff, and flight, and then getting off and having to rent a car, and then shit, I'll just drive, right? So, but 9 hours, right? So it was 18 hours round trip driving time. And a weekend, if I made it a long weekend where we trained all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that came in at around 15 to 18 hours of training, and then other connections with my teachers and all that kind of stuff. So made it worth my while. But most people aren't willing to do that because they assume that they can't, right? What they really mean is it's too much trouble, right? Which is why most people, this is statistically proven. This is not my idea, right? This was one of those eye opening, holy shit, really? Okay. Most people are not willing to travel more than 12 and a half minutes for a martial arts class from where they live or from where they work. It's got to be on their way home or whatever, right? Convenience trumps effectiveness, or convenience trumps, and I don't mean the president, right? Trumps uh, training in something that you really, God, I want to do that. One of my teachers used to say when somebody would go, God, I've wanted to do this like my entire life, right? If he was just meeting him for the first time, or they were chatting back and forth, you know the answer to this, right? Because I use it, right? People they'd say, "Man, I've always wanted to do this," right? And or they would say something like, they would see somebody, Hatsumi-Sensei do something, or me, or him, or whatever, right? Oh my God, I would give anything to be able to do that. What's the answer, James? What's the response?
Uh,
Obviously,
yeah.
obviously not, right? Those of us who would do anything have done anything, right? Obviously not. Okay. So, and now I'm an asshole to other people. So I just keep racking them up, right? And I laugh at that because the only people that are going to get angry are the ones that know it's true and hate me for saying it. They can't hide behind whatever, right? Um, Other ones are going to go, shit, yeah, no, no, yeah, no, got it. Right? And you're not hearing anything from me. I didn't hear from my teachers. You're not hearing anything that they didn't hear from their teachers. And come on, you know. Hatsumi Sensei meeting Takamatsu Sensei, him telling him that he's never going to be. Hatsumi Sensei told him, what do you want to do? What's your goal, right? Oh, I want to be a master martial artist. Takamatsu Sensei looked at him. This was after having what? The equivalent of 100, whatever, black belts or whatever, Menkyo Kaiden, and how many different lineages, right? Oh, I can do this. Yeah, yeah, okay, but what's your goal? Right? I want to be a master martial artist. That's never going to happen. Best thing you're ever going to be is a gadfly, right? You know what a gadfly is? It's one of those big fat flies that fly around cows and horses' asses and eat shit, right? How's that for a punch in the face to somebody who thinks he's all that in a bag of chips, right? Hatsumi Sensei went away and had to think about this, right? Had to get over the anger, had to think about this. Shit. If I want to train with this guy who I took me for how long to find? Shit, right? So he made up his mind. The best I'm ever going to be in the eyes of this guy who's an actual warrior, the best I'm ever going to be is a gadfly. Then I guess I'm going to be the best gadfly that's out there. And then he got on with training. Shit, look what happened. Right? But the first thing he had to do to deal with that kind of directness was to get over himself. Okay? You want to handle haters? Don't be an easy target for haters. Right? Don't get all pissed off because somebody comes at you. Because generally speaking, the things that piss us off are the things we're afraid are true. If it's true, we need to fix it. If it's not true, it shouldn't matter. Right? So I calls my mom a name. You know the kind of name that I'm talking about because of the next phrase I'm going to use. Really? Did you pay her? That's all I'm concerned about. Okay? Because I know my mom's not. I know I'm not. I know he's an asshole. So here you go. Okay? Oh, I just called your mom. Yeah, well, I'm not a teenager in the hood who's going to freak out because you called mom a name. Anyway, all right, that's it. That's all I got. James, thanks a lot for your help again. Hang out after we disconnect from everybody. But guys, I'll talk to you next week on, what are we on? KUDEN. Get more of KUDEN Radio. Subscribe through your favorite podcasting site or subscribe at modernninjawarrior.com.